Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Suspects, Claire Harper Takes the Stage. This was sent to me by Hachette Board Games, and is designed by Guillaume Montiage. This box contains 3 complete mysteries with rich plots and elaborate characters in the style of Agatha Christie. Solo or with friends, embark on adventures with the intrepid and brilliant Claire Harper that will take you from lavish mansions to decrepit theaters, from Scotland all the way to Egypt. Let me show you how to play. So in Suspects, you have 3 different mysteries. I'm not going to spoil anything because obviously, you don't want to be spoiled for these mysteries, but I'm going to go through just the general format of how these sort of cases work. So at the beginning, you have basically the setup, usually a letter to Claire Harper explaining the case. And there's also a questionnaire here, and these are the questions you're going to try to answer before the end of the game. And depending on how many cards you drew, you'll get a higher score depending on how many you get correct. So this is sort of the setup, and then each case will come with some additional sort of diagrams. So this one, for the first case, is Alistair Manor. You can see there are different numbers corresponding to rooms on here. And then you also have the family tree, which also has numbers for people that you can talk to. So it's pretty straightforward. If you want to question somebody, like let's say I want to question Camilla Alistair. Then you draw the card number 14. There's a deck of cards here. Here she is. Flip it over, and you'll just read the text. I'm not going to read it, obviously, but there's usually some options. You can ask her about the Alistair family. You can question her about Mary Higgins, and then you just continue. You pull the cards out that match the number, and you keep going from there. Same thing if you want to go to a location. Like let's say I want to check out the workshop. That's number 35. You draw the card, flip it over, and then there will be usually items you can investigate in the room. So this one, you can investigate examine the shelves or examine the workbench. When you've decided that you know the answers to the questions, you can stop at any time because the less cards you draw, the more points you will score at the end. There are also some specific mechanics. I'm not going to pull out the cards to avoid spoilers, but if you look here, there might be something like a fingerprint, and it has a green line here, and some of the character cards will have a little line a little section of a line. And when you match up the card, if it connects with the line, then you know that this fingerprint belongs to that person. There are also these little item cards, or not items, but symbols you can find at the bottom of cards. And sometimes you won't be able to draw a certain card until you collect like 3 teapot symbols. So once you have 3 cards with teapots on them, then it'll automatically let you draw a card that will give you some more information. Once you're done, the solution is in this envelope. You open it up and just compare your answers and see how many points you get. And that's pretty much it. It's just a mystery solving game. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I am the target audience for these mystery solving board games. I think Chronicles of Crime, which I reviewed one of their installments back in episode 220, is probably my favorite version of this type of game. I really dislike Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which I know is a very popular one, so maybe take this review with a grain of salt. If you like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, you might like Suspects. Now, with all that said, I think the actual presentation of this game and how you search for clues is actually quite charming and fun. The art's great. It's very satisfying going through and talking to characters and searching the crime scenes and uncovering the details as you go. Now, something I do dislike, though, in a lot of these games, they always want you to solve the mystery as fast as you can to get more points. Now, obviously, you don't have to score yourself, and oftentimes in these games, I don't even bother. I don't mind getting scored for getting questions right, because that's the point of the game. Although, honestly, I don't care for the fact that in this game, the questionnaire basically kind of spoils parts of the case for what you're going to expect to happen. What I don't like, though, is feeling like I have to rush through the game. Like, okay, well, I can't waste my time going everywhere because I have to score more points. These cases are not that long, for one thing. So if you're trying to solve it in the fewest number of cards possible, you're kind of just missing out on content and shortening the experience. There's only 3 cases. Each one is not super long. And if you're speeding through it by not reading everything or trying to read as less cards as possible, again, you're just depriving yourself of material. Also, a problem with this is that these mysteries in this game I played all three, often force you to find very specific cards to either unlock new cards or even just solving the mystery. You need like 2 or 3 cards. I'll touch more on this later. So it's like, I have to be thorough enough to find those exact cards out of like the stack, but I'm theoretically supposed to do this with as few cards as possible, which oftentimes can just be luck. Like, depends on, oh, did I talk to that person first and go to that place first and find exactly what I needed to know? It feels very contradictory to me. Like, I want a cozy mystery where I can go through everything at my own pace, but I feel like so many of these mystery games are focused on points, points, points. Can you solve it the most efficiently, Mr. Detective? Who cares? And it's kind of a shame, because I really like certain aspects of the gameplay. I think matching the lines to see if like fingerprints or footprints match, or if the keys fit in the door, that's a very clever way to do that. And again, the whole general experience of Suspects is actually pretty fun. But where it falls flat for me is unfortunately the mysteries themselves. Oftentimes the mysteries boil down to, did you remember this one sentence on this one card? Or sometimes they make you assume things that are not based on fact. Just, oh, well, obviously this happened because you make an assumption. All 3 mysteries feel like they ramp up to something really interesting, and then when we read the answer, we were like, what? That's it? I think the second mystery in the set is the best of the 3. It does have some clever stuff I liked in its mystery, but even then, the problems I've mentioned before still stand. Also, quite frankly, the table space is pretty crazy on this game. It's all cards, and you have to, you're laying out so many cards on the table. It can be pretty overwhelming to look at and manage. Anyways, I am torn. I think the actual mechanics are fun, and I enjoy sort of unrolling the mystery, discovering things, but I just wasn't a fan of the mysteries themselves, which is obviously the most important thing in a mystery game. I'd be curious to see what other cases are like in, I don't know, other expansions or whatever, because I think the core gameplay is fun, but I wasn't a fan of the mysteries in this.